What's up guys, Vress here. In this video we're going to be taking a look at Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, the new MMORPG currently in development at Visionary Realms. We're going to give an overview of what we know so far and try to determine whether it's a game worth getting excited about. So let's start with a little bit of background. The game is promising a return to what some would call the glory days of MMORPGs, and Visionary Realms have labelled Pantheon as the MMO we've all been waiting for. The team behind Pantheon are led by Brad McQuaid, who you might be familiar with from the original EverQuest game. The game focuses on challenging content and promoting group play and social interaction. The creators claim that they're picking up where the classic MMO left off. It's the belief of Visionary Realms that modern MMOs have tried to cater to an audience that's far too broad in order to get the maximum number of players and make the largest profit. They claim that their intention is to build a game that's focused on a particular niche, and that niche is geared towards the classic PvE MMO experience. I personally think this is a really exciting prospect, and if more studios adopted this attitude, then we may all be able to find our perfect MMO, rather than everyone having to compromise and play the next best thing. However, the big question is whether this model is financially viable. Are there enough people in this niche to support a project as ambitious as an MMORPG? I'm not going to pretend I have the answer to this, but I can give a bit of background regarding Visionary Realms funding. So it's no secret that Pantheon had an unsuccessful Kickstarter campaign, but we should give the team a bit of credit, as they didn't give up and now claim to have exceeded their original funding goals. They've achieved this through pledges on their website and seed funding. Brad McQuaid even owned up to the mistakes they made with the Kickstarter campaign, admitting that they started too early with not enough to show. Personally, I think it's encouraging that the developers haven't stopped working on their vision. After all, Rome wasn't built in a day. The world in Pantheon is known as Terminus, and it's starting to look pretty good. Although impressive graphics aren't a core focus of Pantheon, I think they've done a decent job, at least based on the footage we've been shown so far. However, I'll admit I'm a little disappointed with the character graphics and animation at this stage. I'm hoping that these are some way from being finished, and I suspect they are. Personally, I'm a player who will always pick gameplay over graphics, but at the moment it's just a bit too dated to really pull me into the world. The combat in particular looks a bit too similar to the original EverQuest game to really appeal in 2017 and beyond. However, the game is in pre-alpha, so hopefully we'll see significant improvements as the game is further developed. This isn't me trying to advocate for some kind of action combat, by the way. That would kind of defeat the purpose. The slower paced, more thoughtful approach to combat is definitely the way to go for the demographic that Pantheon is aimed at. I just think it could benefit from a bit of polish, which I'm sure is on the way. So not long ago, Visionary Realms released a Bring a Friend trailer, which despite the clunky animations really appealed to me. I think the idea of having to play with others is something that's core to the MMO experience. It's what really facilitates social interaction and allows new friendships to be built. Pantheon certainly doesn't look like a game that's going to be particularly friendly towards solo players, and that's fine, it's not the market they're targeting. Monsters are going to be more powerful than in your typical MMO, and group play is going to be a requirement, not just in dungeons, but in much of the open world content too. This is actually a really good thing in my opinion. As I said previously, it's nice to see an MMO trying to own one area rather than trying to chase the largest player base. The game is essentially going to promote interaction by making content that requires players to band together and work towards a common goal. A lot of the convenience features we're used to in modern MMOs won't exist in Pantheon. The game won't feature a dungeon finder, and therefore people will have to form groups themselves, just as we had to in EverQuest or early World of Warcraft. Sure, manually forming a group can be a massive pain in the arse, but it does wonders in creating a sense of community, and that's what Pantheon is all about. The game also promises to do away with features such as the quest helper and map markers that we see in most modern MMOs. They want you to actually think about what you're doing and for you to become immersed in the world. Again, I think this is exactly the right thing to do for the type of player that's going to be drawn to Pantheon. Pantheon features a climate system that will have far more impact on the game than just visual changes to the environment. Players will even be able to use the environment to their advantage. The devs have given an example where a spellcaster would be able to harness the lightning in the skies of a particular zone and use it to cast a more powerful lightning-based spell than they could in any other zone. This is a really interesting concept and will certainly make the zones feel unique. The progeny system is another really interesting feature in Pantheon that allows you to sire offspring and actually turn them into playable characters. Presumably, this means that your character will actually age and eventually the new generation will take over. We've been told that the children of your high level characters will benefit from improved abilities, but not to the point that it will give a significant advantage over new players rolling a fresh character. Many MMOs have tried to make the environment more meaningful by adding a system in which the world responds to the player's choices. Pantheon is also attempting to achieve this notoriously difficult goal with the perception system. Essentially, the perception system is focused on encouraging exploration of the world and discovering its secrets. Certain classes will be able to perceive things that others cannot, giving them a unique way of interacting with their environment and providing them with a reason to care about the world that they are in. This will likely mean that certain classes are essential when trying to achieve different feats, which should further encourage people to play together. I'm really looking forward to this particular feature, as I really like feeling like my class is unique. NPC behaviour will also be dynamic in Pantheon, and the AI you encounter will have different dispositions, meaning that they're more likely to take certain actions during a given scenario. One of the examples given so far is the Craven, who is likely to flee during the heat of battle. Another is the Bully, who is likely to attempt to use intimidation to achieve their goals. The world will also respond to how the player interacts with both friendly and hostile NPCs. For example, if you were to clear a region of an enemy faction, then another faction may jump on that opportunity and invade that region. Moving on to abilities and equipment. One of the most intriguing things about abilities in Pantheon is that you don't necessarily get the best abilities by default. You're not going to get them just from leveling or visiting your trainer. Some of the most powerful spells can only be found out in the open world or in the darkest of dungeons. This is another example of the game incentivizing players to explore the world and team up with other people. Equipment is also something that won't come easily, and the way you use it will be very situational. One encounter may require an entirely different set of gear than another. This reminds me of the early days of World of Warcraft, where for example players had to equip themselves with fire resistance gear in order to defeat Ragnaros in Molten Core. Visionary Realms are trying to avoid focusing on the term endgame, as they believe that the entire experience should be enjoyable, rather than just leveling as fast as possible so you can finally start having fun when you hit max level. However, I'm sure you're wondering what Pantheon has in store for us in terms of dungeons and raids. Well, what we know so far is that the devs are focusing on dungeons over raids, and they promise challenging encounters all the way through the leveling process, not just at endgame. Again, this reminds me of the original World of Warcraft game, and I think it's something that's often missing in modern MMOs. While they've said that raiding isn't a focus, they haven't said that it will be excluded, and even mentioned the possibility of raids being available not just at max level, but even during the leveling process. I'm not sure how that would work exactly, because it seems like it would be a lot of work to tune an entire raid and then people out-level it so quickly. Most importantly of all, the team behind Pantheon have promised to provide expansions that will stay ahead of the majority of players, keeping content fresh. That's a big promise, and whether they can deliver on it is yet to be seen. Just a quick note on PvP. There will be PvP servers, but it's not going to be a primary focus of the game. We'll probably find out more once PvE has been fleshed out. However, we have been told that PvP balancing will be totally separate to PvE balancing. The developers have stated that they want to be able to balance both PvE and PvP without them interfering with each other, which feels like a sensible move. Overall, I really want to love this game, and I think it has huge potential. There's been too much talk about WoW killers and other such bullshit in recent years that it's really nice to see a studio who are not trying to be the next World of Warcraft. They're trying to build a game that's focused on a very specific niche in the MMO genre. Sure, this means that the majority of MMO players probably won't bother with it, but the ones that do will potentially fall in love with it as it's built specifically for them. Big credit to Visionary Realms for following this strategy. I wish them every success, and I'll definitely be trying the game when it comes out. So there you have it, my brief overview and thoughts on Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game in the comments down below. Also, if you like the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for regular content. And I will see you next time.